This video talks you through a suggested method for installing Mabey Hire's SR300 and 500 Cradle. Once delivered to site, lay the pre-assembled strut horizontally at ground level along with both the inner and outer cradles. Attach lifting chains to the two lifting points of the inner cradle, then lift. And lower into position at the end of the pre-assembled strut. To fix in place, insert bolts and tighten to secure the inner cradle to the strut. Lifting chains can now be removed. If using the SR300 hydraulic cylinder, the adapter bracket will need to be bolted in place in order to seat the cylinder correctly. Lift the cylinder via the single lifting ring located on the body of the cylinder, and slowly lower into the inner cradle already attached to the strut. Once the cylinder is seated correctly in the inner cradle, bolt the bracket to the cradle to secure the cylinder in place. Lifting chains can now be removed. Once the full strut assembly is complete, remove the red anti-uplift bolt and washer from the underside of the inner cradle. Lift and then gently lower the outer cradle in front of the concrete capping beam, or similar. Once in the desired position, bolt to the concrete capping beam or similar, with the appropriate fixing specified in the scheme design. Now attach lifting chains to the lifting points on the strut. Lift and sling horizontally into position so that the inner cradle sits within the outer cradle. Ensure the locating peg to the underside of the inner cradle is positioned in the outer cradle slot, and reattach the red anti-uplift bolt and washer. Screw two threaded bars into the tapped holes located on the outer cradle end plate, then fit nuts and washers. Carefully lower the required amount of packing shims on top of the threaded bars. Then tighten the nuts and washers up against the shims to secure. Attach a hydraulic pump hose to the cylinder, then extend the cylinder piston and pressurize to the required installation preload pressure. Once the required preload pressure has been reached, wind the locking collar down so that it is tight against the cylinder body. Now remove the hydraulic pump hose. Attach a hydraulic pump hose and pressurize the cylinder to allow the locking collar to be released from the load. Unwind the locking collar to create a narrow groove between the collar and the packing shims. Whilst the cylinder is still connected to the pump, use a crowbar or similar to retract the cylinder's piston back further. The hydraulic pump hose can now be detached and the nuts holding the shims can be loosened. Once loosened, remove the shims followed by the fixings and both thread bars. It's important to now remove the red anti-uplift bolt and washer from the inner cradle. Disconnect the opposite end of the strut if positively fixed, and lift the strut clear of the excavation. Once complete, all equipment should be cleaned and be ready for reuse or collection. This video is to be viewed in conjunction with the detailed written user guide which is available to download from our website.